Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Under announcements, there are openings on the following committees: the Airport Commission, Audit Committee, Business Development Commission, Carver Cultural Council, Carver Housing Authority, State Representative, Commission on Disability, Earth Removal Committee, the Growers Representative, Finance Committee, Local Housing Partnership Committee, Marcus Atwood Trustees, Old Colony Regional Voc Tech School Committee, there are 2 positions there, Recreation Committee, Town Building Study Committee, and ZBA alternate. Please contact the Selectmen's office for an application. And just a continuing reminder to all the residents to please donate what you can to the food pantry. You can drop it off at either the Council on Aging or the Public Library. Thank you. Okay, moving into the agenda, appointments with possible votes. We have Star Electric and Verizon New England poll hearing. We have a representative here tonight. Good evening. Would you let the residents know who you are and why you're here?
Karen Ray of Star Electric.
Thank you, Karen.
Star Electric is requesting permission from the town of Carver to place one new pole numbered 93/23.5 on North Main Street. This new pole is necessary to bring electric service to the new Dunkin' Donuts building, which will be located at 2 Montello Street.
Thank you very much. Questions, comments from the board?
Just a quick one. That's for the new building down there, the Dunkin' Donut or something?
It's a Dunkin' Donuts.
Yep.
yes.
Okay.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept that.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Ms. Ewing?
Is this a public hearing?
It is.
Maybe we should ask the public if they want.
Anybody in the audience like to make any comments on this? Hearing none.
You heard the phone.
All those-
Somebody's calling in to comment on
Yeah.
this, apparently.
Somebody from the TV audience?
Yeah.
Dial a
Sorry
fr-
about
Dial a
that.
friend.
Yeah.
All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We know you wanted to be here tonight, right? Okay, next up is a reappointment of Roger Shores to the Town Building Study Committee. Come on down, Roger. You guys were never formally disbanded or anything,
Correct.
just to make sure that there's no questions or problems or issues or concerns.
I do have a couple questions. This is quite a time
I'm,
commitment.
I'm talking about legal ones.
Okay.
We brought the members in to reappoint them. All right, now are you bringing up something that you're not gonna be able to participate in this and?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay,
I have a few questions, though.
okay.
Since it is quite a time commitment. Number one, I'd like to know if we're going to, in a timely manner, receive any figures from any departments, including the school department, that we may need.
I would hope and expect that everybody in town would cooperate with you guys in trying to come up with a plan and a recommendation. If you run into any obstacles, I think Mr. LaFawn will be more than happy to run some interference for you. And if he needs more firepower than that, I'm sure that a couple of us can get involved.
Okay, thank you. And along the same line.
Can I have an answer, Roger? I mean, the town unanimously says that we need to do something about the school. The financial plan is the only big component that we're really concerned with.
I
So
understand.
why everybody wouldn't cooperate fully, it would be way beyond me.
Well, I'm just making a matter of
Yep.
public.
You identify who that is, Roger, and he or she will probably be tarred and feathered and run out of town, so.
You might mention it's you, Mike, so you better be careful.
The second point, will we be privy to any in all correspondence coming from the Commonwealth in terms of building and,
I would hope so.
you know the problem we had last time?
No, I'm not sure.
Well, I came right down last minute. We
Do-
didn't get certain correspondence in a timely manner.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. LaFawn, who does the Mass School Building Assistance Authority respond to when they come back with,
Yeah, they respond to
directly
the
to school
school
superintendent?
superintendent and school committee, yes.
So that's who you, we need to make sure working right with you folks.
Right, and you are the town father, so I'm asking.
But the MSBA is pretty responsive. If somebody from an appointed board or something calls them with information regarding to this issue, they're usually forthcoming on, oh, we sent a letter to the superintendent, we
Right.
sent a letter to the town. So,
I think part of the problem in the recent history was that the MSBA was not really set up to handle some of the questions and concerns that Carver had. When this project started, when the MSBA was reformulated, it didn't resemble the prior MSBA, so I think we were all having some growing pains at that point, even MSBA, and there was a problem getting good information from them that was kind of outside their comfort zone.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Tell me if I'm wrong, but are you asking that if the town of Carver receives correspondence regarding the budget or from the MSBA, that you shouldn't have to go seek it, that you should just automatically be receiving it?
Yes,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
as long as it's pertinent to what our job is.
Right. And I agree that that should happen.
If we shouldn't be privy to something, then that shouldn't happen.
no, you obviously can't develop a plan if you don't have all the
Right,
information.
and we don't want to chase it and
Right.
then,
Time is of a premium, we know that.
yeah, and then get to a certain point and then all of a sudden a memo comes from the Commonwealth that we have to take 10 steps backwards.
We will certainly do our best to make sure that that is emphasized to everybody, Roger. If you run into any kind of a problem where something like that crops up, please let us know
All right,
right away so that we can
Mm.
deal
What-
with it and find out where the problem is, okay?
thank you. One final question. If the selectmen endorse any of our recommendations, will they stand behind that endorsement at town meeting?
For me, yes.
Mr. Watt?
Certainly.
Absolutely.
Mr. O'Donnell?
I would say that if that's the vote of the Board of Selectmen, then we ought to be standing behind it.
Okay, Ms. Ewens?
Yes, if that's the way I vote, then
You will.
that's what I'll stand.
Okay. I'm just a firm believer in being right up front with everything. Nothing personal. This is, and we're not just talking about the school, we're talking about all the buildings
That's correct.
in the town. This is extremely important at this point in time for the taxpayers.
The school is obviously a priority, but also, your mission is not done with that, because we've tasked you to look into the police and fire and stuff
Right.
too, so.
So after those boisterous questions, I don't know if you still want to appoint me, but I'd be happy to serve.
Well, you done chastising us?
No, that wasn't meant as a,
I'm just teasing you, Roger.
it was meant as just
Are you ready
being
to go?
upfront.
You ready to go?
I make a motion, we
We're
appoint
ready.
Roger.
We have a motion to appoint you,
Second.
and we have a second. Any questions, comments?
May I just suggest one thing in terms of budgets? Would it be acceptable to have them added to the list that we receive on a month-end basis regarding the budgets while they're working on this project?
Yeah, the monthly budget report?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be, we could do that.
And make sure they come to
We
the
could send
hearings.
it to the chairman.
Make sure they come
Right,
to the hearings.
well, that's fine, yeah.
You-
Would
you
that
s-
help?
Yeah, it will. See where I'm coming from? I don't want to have to rely on the Commonwealth network of schools, for example,
Right.
just an example, in terms of, student ratios, and money spent per student, we need hard, real figures. Not that we're pulling out of a website spreadsheet. To make sure that we come back to you, because we are an ad hoc committee for you, that we come back with the best plans. We hope we can get a good plan. We felt we had some good ones before, with the best plans that we can, for all of the taxpayers. I mean, it's gonna require sacrifice in every department, for these things to happen. So we gotta know what we're dealing with, because there's potentially people could be upset about what we recommend.
We're counting on you.
All right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Helen, does that mean that you think, that you want them to do a monthly update on their progress?
No. Mr. Shores had just mentioned that he wants to know, like, what's going on with the
So a
budget
monthly
and
report
things
from
like
the
that.
budget,
So
okay, yeah, I
I
gotcha.
just thought to be proactive, and they could
Or
just
the
get
chairman of the group.
the chairman of the group could just receive the update of the budget, and that way it will
Okay.
relieve, you'll always know, at least from the budget standpoint, what's going on.
Yeah,
I'm
we
good.
have our library there, and if we
Yeah.
need to get to it, it's
Right.
right there.
Exactly.
All right.
Okay,
It's gonna be a pleasure, and I look forward to working again for my town.
Thank you.
well, we do too.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Opposed? It's unanimous, Roger.
All right, thank you. I'll
Thank
go home and
you.
watch on TV.
thank you.
Thank you.
Put you right to sleep, right? All right, next up is the reappointment of Robert Barlow as a constable for 3 years. Mr. Barlow. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Evening.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I've been a constable in Carver for 24 years and hope to continue in that position. I'm a constable in 4 different towns, Marshall, Plymouth, and Hanover, and Carver. And in my 24 years, I've never had any complaints in any of my towns.
Are we keeping you busy here?
It is not quite as busy as I've seen in the past, but
That's a good thing.
yes, it is.
All right,
Not-
we'll take not quite as busy. Do we have any questions from the members of the board?
I make a motion that we appoint Mr. Barlow to the constable position.
Second.
And we have a second. Any further questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Congratulations.
Very much.
Thank you,
Keep up the
Mr.
good
Barlow.
All right, next up, we have a request by Edward James to be appointed to the Airport Commissioner. Good evening, Ed.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Why don't you tell everybody at home a little bit about yourself and why you want to join the Airport Commission?
Well, I was pretty excited when I heard that there was a position open there.
Can I, Mr. Chairman, can I clarify something? It isn't a position on the commission. It would be the selectman's representative to go to the commission meetings. Jim Grimes was it before me, then I became it, and I have stepped down because of my commitment to everything, so. So, thank you. Yep, okay, good.
Now that we have that clarified.
Thank you very much. No,
Okay.
no, it's similar difference though, but anyway. Yeah, I have a long history of being in aviation too. I got my private pilot's license at 18, commercial at 20, and now that I'm only 28 years old. So now I've been flying for quite a while, although I'm currently an inactive pilot, but long background in it. My degrees, I have a degree in aeronautics and also a degree in business administration with a concentration on transportation management. Flew for IBM for a few years, ran a fixed-based operation at Dallas Love Field for a few years down there too, so I'm familiar with airport operations and what boards and commissions on the airport do, especially on large airports like that. And now you know I'm a resident here in Carver. You're all familiar with me from my days at Stonewood and other things that I've done in town here too. And I am a neighbor of the airport as well, not too far from where you live, Mike, but over there under the traffic pattern for runway 6 and all, and still keeping up on everything to do with aviation, very actively being involved in that part of it, keeping up on all the details and all the goings-on both in Washington and state level. And very familiar with Plymouth Airport. I've done a lot of flying out of there over the past years. In fact, the airport manager over there, Tom Maher, is a fellow Northeastern grad. He was in the same program I was in at the same time back then.
Sounds like they're gonna miss you, Dick.
No, I'm all right. Yeah, no,
They may
there's
want you
more.
back, Dick. He knows too much.
Yeah.
well, what I
More.
was,
I won't bore you with all the other little things.
what I was gonna say was, Ed, when we were on the Plymouth Airport Planning Group to, make plans on changing the strips and such and updating the airport, Ed came to many of our meetings when we were down in Plymouth, doing that work. So he has shown an interest already in that work, so I'm good.
Any other questions, comments, concerns, recommendations? Yes.
Just as far as the open meeting law, it says request by Ed James to be appointed to the airport commission, but we're not appointing him to the airport commission, are we, Dick?
No.
You said
No, I
selectman's
just-
representative for something?
Yeah, no, all it is, but it's very important because
Oh, I know it is.
our representative is gonna sit in, Ed would be sitting in on the airport commission meetings. Now, we wouldn't have a vote, but if there's an important issue or something, he can bring it back to us. And we can, if need be, make a complaint or whatever the case may be. But if we don't see what's happening there,
Oh, I agree with you.
No.
All I'm just saying is the way it's
Yeah.
listed
It's worded.
on our agenda, it looks like we're appointing him to the airport commission, and we're really not.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
if he goes and tells him he's the new airport commissioner, that'll
Carver,
be interesting how Plymouth takes
So-
that.
yeah, Carver doesn't have a representative on the
No,
commission.
we don't.
Well, I know that's one of the issues that the
Correct.
board's had for a long, long time, is that the way the airport is chartered, there's no seat for a Carver member, even though part of it's in Carver. So, years ago, as Mr. Ward has said, the Board of Selectmen, I think it was Jim's initiative, had formed an ad hoc group answerable to them, a representative to attend the commission meetings and report back. That's what we're talking about, so.
But he,
We have to redo this. all
Yeah.
over again.
yes.
Table
So,
it.
Well, I want to appoint you, but I want you to be appointed to the right board, and I want to,
Would it be sufficient to presume that we don't need to have Mr. James back, though, to
All right.
formalize this?
Carriage tonight.
Very good.
right,
There's a concern about that.
Besides, when they allow me to be an airport commissioner, that'll absolve that issue.
maybe you can push for that.
Do I have a motion to table this?
Oh, I'm gonna abstain.
Motion to table,
second,
we can clarify it for the
Till-
agenda.
Motion and a second. Any other questions?
till next meeting.
Yeah.
Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I'm gonna abstain.
401. Okay, thanks, Ed. Good luck. Get ready. Okay, next up is Tom Walsh, and he's gonna give us a storm update.
Good job, Mr. Walsh.
In a forecast.
Well, I thought I'd give you an update on how things went throughout the storm. In the days leading up to the February 8th blizzard, Emergency Management monitored the weather system along with MEMA and the National Weather Service, participated in several MEMA conference calls with the National Weather Service, and met with emergency service department heads and members of the Board of Selectmen. As is always the case in Carver, all departments were fully cooperative and prepared, and by the time the blizzard hit, all departments had staffed up, manned their stations, and had in place a plan on how the departments would work cooperatively together to deal with the blizzard. The resulting performance of the public safety departments under the most difficult of conditions was, in my opinion, exceptional. The storm ended up representing an opportunity that brought out the best in Carver's public safety departments. During the storm and in the days immediately after, the Carver Fire Department responded to 70 separate and actual fire incidents, including 3 structure fires, 3 requests for mutual aid, and 12 ambulance support efforts when a brush breaker responded with the ambulance in order to break a path through snowdrifts and to assure that the ambulances, which are not four-wheel drive vehicles, made it to the hospital. And they also transported several residents to the shelter. The Carver EMS Department responded to 24 calls for service, which resulted in 20 transports to the hospitals, which was the busiest 2 days the service ever has had, and certainly under the most difficult conditions. One of these 24 calls was to carry by stair chair or other means 8 elderly people from their homes to a waiting GATRA bus because they were snowed in for transportation to the shelter. The Carver Police Department, in addition to a very heavy volume of calls, some 338 calls from Friday through Tuesday, also assisted shuttling residents to the high school shelter. GATRA bus drivers were called in by emergency management and shuttled dozens of residents to the high school shelter under difficult road conditions. Emergency management opened the high school shelter at 2 p.m. on the afternoon of February 8th. This shelter was a pet-friendly shelter, which is relatively rare, and was one of only 17 shelters in the state to be open Friday. While we only had one person avail himself of the shelter on Friday evening, it put us in a very good state of readiness for Saturday, February 9th, when many people wished to go to the shelter due to the loss of power and heat accompanied by low temperatures. The shelter, under the direction of the Emergency Management Shelter Officer Bill Harriman and 2 of the EMS team, Joan Hibbard and Rick Leopardi, provided services to 169 individuals, 4 cats, 4 dogs, and 9 assorted pet rodents or birds. The Carver School Department staff of Dave Siedendorf and Pat Maher and the custodial and cafeteria staff did a great job and were very accommodating to the needs of the community. Over the past 30 years, we have never had more than 30 residents stay overnight in a Carver shelter. And due to the large number of people who wish to begin sheltering there on Saturday evening, emergency management, through Massachusetts Emergency Management, requested additional cots, and those were delivered within 24 hours by the National Guard. And finally, I believe certainly the unsung heroes of this storm have to be our DPW, who did an excellent job of keeping our roads open under the most horrendous conditions. And after the storm was over, emergency management worked with NSTAR, as did the police department and other departments, establishing community priorities and getting power back as soon as possible, as well as dealing with other storm-related power outages and issues. So that pretty well sums up how I think things went. I've talked with the other department heads and everyone feels that things went pretty well the way we wanted them to. And I think the public was well served by the town during this event.
Very good. Super. Any comments, questions?
Tom, if I could just prompt you a little bit on the aftermath and the efforts to seek reimbursement for, partial reimbursement for claims.
Right. We're not even done. I'm just finishing up Hurricane Sandy, and now we have to submit by 5 o'clock tomorrow the initial damage assessment for the blizzard to MEMA in order to start the process where they will accumulate all of these from the 351 towns and determine whether or not things rise to a level of to require or request a declaration of disaster from the president. Now, the snow removal, which is the biggest part of the cost, is based on how much snow you got. And FEMA has a guideline that says something like it has to be kind of the most you ever got or within a certain percentage of that. This will be determined by the National Weather Service, so I don't know how we'll make out on snow removal. But all of that information will go in tomorrow, and I thank all of the departments for being cooperative in getting me the information, and I'll be putting it together tomorrow and getting it in by the close of business.
Super. We can certainly use every penny we can get. So.
It'll probably not come in this fiscal year, though, you can be sure of that. Yeah.
Still haven't got Sandy's, right?
That's right. We're finishing that up.
Yeah, right. Any other questions or comments by the board?
Just make a comment that you, I don't know if you saw the letter in the Carver Reporter.
I did,
Somebody who
yes,
stayed
I was
overnight.
that gentleman.
And it was a nice letter, and basically it said that they were a family in need, and they moved, and they didn't like the idea of going. You got to the school, it was a comfortable situation, and they almost liked it. So it showed.
And I
The-
really have to commend Bill Harriman and the team
Yeah.
of people that were there.
They showed a lot of compassion. It was good.
paid
It was
people a lot of
excellent.
attention, and we tried to make them feel as at home as we could.
I know, I went up to the shelter on some of those days, as did Mike and Dick, and I didn't hear any complaints at all, so it really went nice and smooth.
I had to take my hat off to the people in the school there because, you know, they left their homes and stayed there with these folks. And that's not something that they had to do, you know what I mean?
Dave Siedentoff is an absolute team player, and you couldn't ask a more cooperative person to work with in the school system. He's absolutely wonderful, everything we ask for. The only reason we can have that as a pet-friendly shelter is because of the accommodation of the school.
Are we gonna be able to, buy our own cots, Tom, so that we have them on board instead of
Well, we're gonna look for ways to get about 50 more, I think.
maybe a grant from the state or something?
Well, we're gonna try to find the money somehow through maybe the emergency management planning grants and things like that.
Tom, those cots that got delivered, are you able to keep those, or you have to return them?
No, I was hoping.
Yeah, those were nice.
If they
They're
belong
real
to
nice
the
cots.
If they belonged to the state,
Yeah.
they would have had a
Tried
hard
to
time
hide
getting them
them, but
back.
got
Well, they weren't a cot in the terms that you would think of a cot. It
They
was
belong
really
to the
nice.
Town of Dudley.
Yeah. Oh, do they?
And, yeah, so we had to get them back. So
Okay.
MEMA got them. They know where all of these are. They got them for us. I was hoping it was state or federal, and then we would have tried to keep them. But we've already given them back. They took
Oh,
them back by
yeah.
Wednesday.
Well, super job, and again, I think we have to also commend the general public because those folks put up with the worst conditions possible. I didn't hear a whole lot of griping and complaining.
Very few
just-
people were, the public was, naturally, when you get down to that last 10%,
Right.
they're on their last nerve, and you can't blame them.
Sure.
And there were a couple of disgruntled people that we dealt with in emergency management, but by and large, they were terrific, really. Very, very understanding, and certainly NSTAR could do a better job. And I think NSTAR learned a lesson in that they had a lot of crews around, and it seemed like they were filling up every parking lot. But the coordination of the effort and their ability to give the information to the town on where the trucks were working and what circuits they were working on is still pretty poor.
We gotta remember, a lot of those crews came from Oklahoma,
Yeah.
Wisconsin, Nova Scotia.
Quebec.
So the coordination was unbelievable. I got some phone calls at home from people that are at the end of Meadow and Rochester Street. And
Yep.
they're apparently the last ones on the electric grid in Carver, and I felt, you know, my heart went out to them. They were the last ones to get their electricity, but,
That Pike crew from South Carolina was something else. They were great.
well done by everybody, I think.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just say, he didn't mention, I don't know if maybe Ken Morrison, and Tom and Ken make just an outstanding team, as you know, and one other thing, and you had alluded to it, Mr. Chairman, briefly, that, you know, we've got a lot of people in this town, and I'm not talking bureaucrats, I'm talking about, you know, public safety officials, firefighters, ambulance workers, and police officers who, it's gotta be tough to be away from your family during those times, to be doing that type of job, so
Actually, it
wanna
was
thank you.
warmer.
It was warmer, warmer in the cruiser, was it? So anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but,
And the two chiefs.
Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah, great job.
So well done to everybody, I think.
Thank you.
All right, moving along. Next up is the North Carver Water Commissioners to discuss the recent events.
Skip one.
You're gonna do the
Yeah,
Crystal Lake?
Oh, did I miss Crystal Lake?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it was Jen. Okay. Right over you, Jack.
It's gonna keep you on schedule, though.
Yeah.
You're better to use this mic, Jack. You can hear better on this one.
This will be Mr. Hunter and the residents of Crystal Lake to discuss a proposal for a community garden.
How you doing?
Thank you for having us. There's two parcels which are under common ownership by the town on Oak Drive, and I'll give a little bit of background. 3 years ago, maybe, town meeting conveyed those to the Board of Selectmen, and then the Board of Selectmen gave them to the Redevelopment Authority. Redevelopment Authority tried to sell it as a buildable lot, had a lot of interest, but then what happened was the abutting property relocated their septic system and their well, and it made it unbuildable. And then we gave it back to you. And that's how I met CJ, and CJ's here as a resident, and he had the idea of, why don't we do a community garden? So CJ and I met, we kind of kicked it around a little bit. We went and met with the Ag Commission. They liked the idea and would be supportive of it. Then we had a neighborhood meeting 3 weeks ago?
About 3 weeks ago.
About 3 weeks ago, we had very good turnout, and every single resident at the meeting wants to participate in trying to put a community garden. So, we're here just to tell you what we're doing, and hopefully have your blessing to keep moving forward. I would like to think maybe we could work under the guise of the Ag Commission, much like the farmer's market does, and maybe get a small grant, is what I'm looking at, an agricultural grant, to help put this together. It's gonna need potable water, obviously for a garden, and some lumber we talked
Yeah,
about.
doing raised beds.
Use the microphone.
We're talking about doing raised beds, so we'd need money to clear and to build the beds.
And there's, you know, you gotta have rules and regs, and CJ had the idea of doing a lottery, in case there's too many people. Then is it only restricted to Crystal Lake residents? Do we wanna out of the neighborhood residents, even out of town? We talked about maybe having, selling vegetables at the farmer's market. And so there's all kinds of ideas we got. But we certainly didn't wanna move farther along without you guys knowing, having your permission or blessing and that kind of
I
stuff.
think it's a great idea, rather than having a trash-strewn lot that nobody's taking care of.
Yeah, right now it's basically just a wooded lot.
Yeah, I mean,
It's unusable to pretty much anyone.
another place for the kids to dump stuff and other things, and so this way here, you'll have people there all the time taking care of it. I think it's great.
You know, and I've worked very hard, especially the last few years, on trying to help Crystal Lake. And I think this will go a long way in helping the residents take some more pride in their neighborhood, being community spirited about their neighborhood. I know some of the residents are here. I don't know all of them. If you could, if I'd like to say who they are, who would like to participate. We have CJ Gillis, we have Adam Brunzel, Eileen Russa, I'm gonna butcher names here, Maureen Regan, Lynn Finney, Sharon Smith, Stacy Pierce, Susan Lee, and Lisa Ebby. All of them, I didn't expect every single one to want to participate. I thought they'd be kind of curious, but everyone wants to participate and try to organize this. And I've done community gardens in urban towns and cities I've worked in. I think this is gonna be a wonderful thing for the town of Carver.
Super. Questions, comments?
CJ bugged me for a couple of years, I think it was, pushing this idea until we couldn't use it anymore, and then we, and
Well,
you
that was
kept
a-
up the,
Yeah, that was the
Yeah.
other lot too.
Yeah.
There's another lot that's
yeah.
vacant.
So it's a great idea, I think, like Mike said, so it doesn't become trash and stuff. And you live right across the street from it as well, too,
Correct.
right?
I live
Yeah,
across the
so
street.
you can keep an eye on things for
Sure.
us, you know? You volunteered, remember?
I know.
Any other questions, comments?
Thank you. I just think it's a terrific idea. I wish we had more in town. And I'm glad you're doing raised beds, because it's a lot easier to weed
Yeah.
and control, and the soils, you can amend your soils and not have to worry about rocks and tree
And
limbs,
if it works, you know,
tree
there's
roots.
nothing saying we can't take that design and implement it in other parts of town.
Correct, yep.
Of course, the Board of Selectmen claims first right to taste any of the products to make sure that they're fit for consumption by the
Deal with
public.
these residents on that.
Be careful of those police cruisers stopping by late at night.
Tomatoes. Any other comments?
Nope.
Dick?
Yep, I'm on the Ag Commission, and we listen to these folks and Jack, and we like the idea, of course, And a connection between our farmers to market and them would be great. But the fact is, we need to encourage more people to get onto the know-how of raising their own food or raising vegetables. So that's one of our desires in the Ag Commission. So thanks, CJ.
No, I just think it's great. Please educate me on how to grow a garden. Yeah, that would be a great idea.
So where do we go from here?
Can I mention one more thing? The grant process would be worked through the Ag Commission.
Correct.
Yep.
I would suggest that, much like I do with the
Yep.
farmer's market.
Yep.
You know, I don't think you need another committee to do this.
No,
Well-
but then it gives us an official umbrella of which it's on.
And we already have a designation for that kind of a program with the town accountant, so that it doesn't shut down June 30th. And by the way, the Ag Commission runs programs about every spring on raising vegetables. Mike Paddock is usually our star performer.
I
So-
actually watched him on TV, learning how to keep flowers. I was amazed. We have some talented residents in this town. You learn a lot.
To answer Selectman Franny's question, I think what I would do is have a meeting with the residents, and we'll start kicking around. We've shared some links, and maybe even visit a community that has one. Brockton has one. I'm not sure where else. They probably know now, the residents. And find out how's the best way to do this. It has to be some organization. There has to be some responsibility. And put rules and regs together and then apply for the grant. We may not see a lot happening this summer, but certainly next summer.
But Jack, do we need to take a vote granting you permission to use the town-owned property?
I don't know what the protocol is.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea. I mean.
Do we need to do that tonight or at a different night where it's,
Can't.
Well, that's
not on the
really
agenda.
up to,
yeah.
I guess if you didn't like what they were doing, it would be.
Oh, I like what
rather
they're doing, but I mean, I think, for insurance purposes and everything else, that we need to,
Well, I think we could put it on the
That's-
next
that's
meeting.
fine.
We don't need Jack and TJ
No.
back in front of us. We could just.
Yeah, and the important thing, obviously, is they know they've got the support of the board.
You have our support,
No,
our
it's,
endorsement
you
on
know,
it,
it's-
yeah.
yeah.
it's your-
Excellent idea,
fine.
super.
So I move we table the vote on this until the next selectmen's meeting.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any further questions, comments, recommendations?
I just want to say, I hope you involve the kids down there. Yeah, good.
We discussed it.
Good, that's real important.
And one thing that people might not know is CJ is also a firefighter, right?
I am.
So I'm sure you were out during that storm doing a lot of work too.
I was.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh.
Drag themselves.
All right, we have a motion and a second to table this for a vote to the next meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you, CJ. Thanks, Jack.
Now we got the North Carver Water District. We're gonna discuss recent events resulting from the blizzard and selling water to Deacon's as an off-site user. Gentlemen, please identify yourself.
Paul Johnson, Chairman of the North Carver Water Commission.
Kevin Tracy.
Kevin and I are representing the North Carver Water Commission tonight on 3 issues. The first, would like to update the public on what transpired during Winter Storm Nemo. The board received an update from the commission immediately after the storm, so we'll ask for your indulgence while we communicate direct to the public. Second, would like to announce a new contract for operations and maintenance of the 3 water systems in town. And finally, would like to update the board and the public with our efforts to increase water sales in the district. On Saturday, February 9th, there was a water service interruption at Cranberry Village. Upon arrival, we found trees down, broken power lines, drifted snow, and a fallen tree on the emergency generator. The Carver DPW removed the trees from the road and the generator, and after a minor repair, the generator started and water supply was restored. On Sunday, we were notified of another service interruption. The access road was impassable and the generator was out of propane with a faulty gauge that read 35% gas remaining. On Monday, the DPW cleared the access road for propane delivery, but the gas company had no phone service. After trying several other companies, we were able to reach the supplier and arrange delivery and service was restored.
The commissioners addressed the gas issue with small water systems. We expressed our disappointment that the tank was not topped off before the storm, as is required in our pre-storm planning. The gauge showed 35% propane when it was in fact empty. The difficulty in obtaining propane during the storm is understandable, given the conditions. We apologize to the residents of Cranberry Village for their inconvenience. Replacement of the generator is on our capital plan as priority one. The North Carver system functioned normally from Friday until 4 a.m. on Wednesday, when I received a complaint of no water from the Carver Police dispatchers. I notified both small water systems and our local operator, Ron Fratazio. Upon arrival, Ron discovered that the emergency generator had shut down. Now, under normal conditions, the computer system would have generated an automated alarm to the operator long before the failure resulted in water service interruption. After several attempts to restart the generator, we called F&M Generator. We then contacted the Middleborough Water Department to get permission to restore water service by opening the interconnection valve with Middleborough. The interconnection valve was not part of the system as designed, but was installed by the Commission as a fail-safe for just this kind of an emergency. We called NSTAR to increase the urgency to get the power restored. NSTAR restored the electricity and the system restarted. At this point, the Middleborough interconnection was closed. Upon reconnection to the distribution system, the pumps could not maintain their pressure set point, indicating a leak in the distribution system. Carver Police were able to locate a leak at Tractor Supply, which was corrected. System pressure continued to drop, however, and another leak was located opposite Aubuchon Hardware on Route 58. The Middleborough system operates at significantly higher pressures and volume than does the North Carver system, which may explain why the leaks occurred after the changeover. Carver Police, the Carver DPW, Middleborough Water Department, DigSafe were all dispatched to the site of the leak to effect repair. The leak was isolated and the interconnection valve with Middleborough was reopened to restore service to customers south of the leak. Repair was completed late Wednesday night, but there was a closed valve that could not be located because of the snow cover. The North Carver system remained on Middleborough Water for the balance of the night. Thursday, the closed valve is located and the Middleborough connection closed and the Carver plant resumed normal operations. We regret the loss of service, but the Commission would like to stress that we can find no corrective action that would have prevented loss of service. Neither the propane system's mechanical breakdown nor the broken pipe could have been prevented. The response of everyone connected to the incident was exemplary, including but not limited to Joe Silva and the Middleborough crew, who function as a contractor for the North Carver Water Commission, and at times a guardian angel, I guess. The Carver DPW crew and Superintendent Bill Halunin, Chief Michael Mitch, who checked in at the repair site to offer his help, Sergeant Rayor, who handled the detail. Finally, I'd like to commend the staff of Small Water Systems, especially Bruce Trumbull. He lived up to his 24/7 responsibilities, as did our own operator, Ron Fratazio. I heard complaints early on that the North Carver water truck was out of town during the storm. Ron Fratazio was prevented from using his truck by down power lines at his home. That's where the truck was. Rather than calling in, he chose to walk to the plant. We thank him for making the trek to work when many others would have chosen to stay home. Finally, to Vin Nocera and his family, we apologize for the inconvenience to both you and your family caused by the leak that unfortunately occurred in your driveway. After a lengthy procurement process, the North Carver Water Commission is pleased to announce the appointment of Small Water Systems to a 2-year contract for full operations and maintenance of the 3 water systems in Carver. This deal provides operational expertise as well as a complement of support staff that allows us to quickly and professionally respond to the needs of all 3 systems 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Small Water is a recognized leader in xenon membrane technologies that we run at the North Carver plant. They have been the primary operator of the system since September of last year, and we look forward to a long and productive relationship with them. Last summer, it came to our attention that DECUS has been purchasing water from an out-of-town source. The Commission has been in discussion with DECUS to supply water from the North Carver system. DECUS is the largest employer in Carver, employing an average of 140 people. The Water District was envisioned to help Carver attract and maintain business. This is a unique and unforeseen opportunity. The district benefits by increasing our water volume, which improves water quality issues resulting from low flows, and reducing our operating deficits, which must be covered by the taxpayers. An important business benefits by purchasing high-quality water locally. Deacons will be purchasing water from us at a reduced rate to help offset their transportation costs. They agreed to purchase between 28,000 and 50,000 gallons of water per day, which will increase revenues of the district by between $45,000 and $80,000 per year. Capital costs for this project include pump upgrades and a fill station, which can be funded out of the unrestricted capital balance of the project, so there's no increased borrowing costs associated with these changes. This project is meant to be a stopgap until a more permanent solution can be found, perhaps using the wells at Cranberry Village. DECUS and the Commission have a 3-year tentative agreement, and we are awaiting approval of a licensing agreement for a fill station near the Middleborough town line. Thank you for allowing us to address these issues tonight, and if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them.
Members of the board, any questions, comments? Jack?
Ron, the operator there, he lives in Halifax, doesn't he? And he walked all the way from Halifax.
My understanding is about a half a mile he walked.
Half a mile?
Mile
Yeah.
to a mile.
Well, that's pretty good, I think, for a town employee to do something like that. The other thing is on the DECUS, you've effectively filled the gap that we envisioned being a deficit for a number of years by bringing in between 40 and 75,000. So it's pretty commendable of your board to do something like that, to have that foresight to do that.
We're trying to run the North Carver Water District as much like a business as we can, and when you have a deficit, you find ways to plug it, and you have to get creative. We've had a lot on our plates for the last year. We've had a hurricane, we've had a winter storm, we've had changeover of personnel, and the commission has just kept its head down and try to perform the business of the people of Carver as effectively as we can under the conditions that we've had. We still have issues that we'll have to face going forward, financial issues that we have to work out to keep this a productive enterprise and keep it living up to its promise. So,
I'm sorry, I don't want.
No, I was just curious, if I missed it, I apologize. Where are you with the DECUS contract? That is phenomenal, in
The
terms
DECUS
of us being able to.
DECUS is ready. We are negotiating with an outfit up in North Carver on the Middleborough line
Yeah.
for a licensing agreement for the fill station.
Okay.
Basically up by the landfill, right.
This concerns me, and the problem is I know many of you on the board, and you are working as volunteers, just like most of us do. The only thing is I am concerned, because I can't picture we let something go to the point where nothing was plowed to either pumping station. And so nobody could check the tanks or whether the generators are running, and when I saw the oil was low in one of the generators, that's something that we as farmers always check, oil in the engines. There was a I looked at this and I said, holy mackerel. I'm thinking, once you have a public water system, you have to keep it going. Someone has to do constant inspection and maintenance, both in North Carver and Cranberry Village. They are our responsibilities. You can't afford to lose the public's confidence by losing electricity and the systems going down. So I have concerns, and yet
The maintenance of the generators in North Carver, it was a mechanical failure on the generator that caused the problem. That could not have been foreseen. The low oil, it had functioned continually for a number of days before that was an issue. So it's unclear to me whether that was a result of it running for that period of time or not. It could well have been.
could be. It's like the downstairs generator for the town hall. I remember the second day I said to Tom Walsh, we're gonna have to change the oil in that generator out there. When they run 24 hours and 24 hours, that's a lot of miles put on a motor, you know? So,
They
operators.
run that generator weekly up in
Yep.
North Carver. They're required to. So,
So-
and it is maintained.
Oh, I'm
So-
just concerned, you guys are gonna update your maintenance and inspection of all those things, so we don't have it happen again.
Absolutely, there's no, you won't find any argument from us. The tanks in Cranberry Village should have been topped off prior to the storm, no question.
I think, Dick, part of the issue was, and I talked to Paul during the storm about this, they were changing over to this small water systems, new management.
Yep.
And they didn't quite have down all the key players in town to get a hold of, like the DPW, to get out and plow that out and everything. So I think that that's
I
all
understand,
been.
yeah, that's
resolved.
what I'm hoping,
Yeah,
is all
trees
all
on the
those,
roadway. Trees
all
on the
those
roadway.
gaps are filled.
Sure.
That's,
There are definitely things that we could have done better, and, we'll look at that and, we'll try to learn from that. That's what's important to us, is that, we get better at it.
And bear in mind, how long has the North Carver Water District operated down the Cranberry, past couple of years?
Yeah,
Well,
first one-
we,
first
the
months
Board of
we've been
Selectmen, were in
operating.
charge of that up until 2 years ago. And what condition was all of that in when we just turned it over to the North Carver Water District? So I think there's a lot of blame to spread around here.
Yeah, again, it was a changeover in personnel.
Yeah.
So you had a new company coming in, replacing a guy that had been working on it for a year and a half. It was just a lot of, things happened at one time. I mean, you can't.
It was a storm completely out of the ordinary,
I
think
would agree with everything
No.
everybody said, and I think under the circumstances, just like as Mr. Walsh updated, I think everybody did a heck of a good job, but I wouldn't agree that we turned over a lemon to the
Oh, I'm not
operation
saying
of
that,
the,
but I'm just
of the
saying,
North Carver Water District to run down there. I think there was a lot of upgrades in that system over a period of time, so.
On a positive note, the folks at Cranberry Village at least had their heat. Am I correct?
got their electricity
You guys had
back.
your heat and your electricity, right?
They were the first ones, weren't they?
You were the first ones back, right?
Yeah. Sure.
So they were doing.
Sure. Why didn't they say something when it counted, right? Everybody- so.
Maybe we should have got an extension cord to Ron's house.
Mr. Belbin, would
on
you
the
escort Mr. Forrester out the door, please?
We now know where we're going to the next storm.
We're all coming to Cranberry Village, so
Yeah,
get the clubhouse ready.
Cranberry Village.
Any other questions or comments by the board? Mr.
If I could make one, I just wanted to comment on something Mr. Johnson said, and that's particular to the role of Middleborough in this whole ordeal. I think, we expect when our town officials and our town officers and employees get called during emergencies, they show up. But the relationship that the town and the district now has with the town of Middleborough is really remarkable. The town of Middleborough has been there for this town for a generation now, helping us deal with our own problems. As some of you remember, the contamination issues that resulted from the North Carver landfill. Middleborough stepped up to the plate, helped the town of Carver out of a problem. And once again, they're out there in the snow and the rain. Even the superintendent is out there himself overseeing an issue to help the town of Carver. Now, granted, everybody's getting paid here. No one's saying anyone's doing it for the church. That's not the issue. But they don't have to do that. And I want to make sure that people understand what a really remarkable relationship that the town and now the district has with the town of Middleborough.
I think the word to describe it, besides remarkable, it's unbelievable. They really, they just go out of their way to help us. We are, in their debt.
I'm
for
trying to
many,
figure
many
out what
things.
we're doing for them,
Right.
Yeah, but you prepared for this by putting that system in between the two towns where you could switch back and forth. That wasn't in place before, so that was very intuitive on your part to do that. And for the Middleborough.
Is there a way to deal with the pressure issue, the differences between the two systems so that in the future that won't cause another issue
We would
down the road?
love to have
Is
the
there a way
pressure
to
that
do
middle.
that?
That's really comes up to the design of the system and whether we can have a standpipe to help us increase the pressure. Part of the DECUS upgrades that we did was to add a pump that's gonna boost the pressure a little bit. The pump that we're taking out of service will be able to be used as a spare for us, so we're adding a little bit of pressure. We really could use the pressure because we can't flush on our own yet. We don't have the pressure or the volume to do that, so it's something that we'd love to have. The pressure differential causes problems because you get a water hammer effect when you open the valves, and that may be wearing on some of the connections, the number of times we've had to exercise it, but the health concerns trump anything else that we've got, so we've got to treat those as the first issue, so. And this deal with Deacon's should help us with that. For the coliform issues that we've had in the past year related to low flow, Deacon's will help. We don't know how much it will help. We don't know if it'll eliminate it. We plan to flush. We've put in our budget money to flush using the Middleborough system annually. So, you know, we think we're on the right track. We have to kind of be patient and see how it works out this summer when the temperatures go up and bacteria likes to grow a little bit. And again, as Mike says, these are not bacteria forms that are health issues. They are sort of the canary in the coal mine type idea. They are things that we watch for so that we don't get to a situation where we have the more serious bacteria. We take care of it before it trips that wire.
Any other questions or comments?
Well, when you get hooked up to this agreement, that'll give you like a 75,000 gallon a day output, which would help you keep the water moving to reduce the coliform and all that, yeah.
That, the hooking up of the Dunkin' Donuts, the hooking up of Cornerstone's Plaza this year, there's been a lot of things that should help improve the situation for this summer, and knock on wood, we're hoping to get through the summer without additional coliform hits.
Great.
I think you picked a hydrant just so that the water would flow through those pipes and not have
The
that.
location of
that
the hydrant
particular-
is
yes.
far out in towards Middleborough.
It's at
is what
the
we
end,
get.
yeah.
Right, so that we can empty the system. That's the idea of it. Deacon's is gonna help us empty the system.
Super. Anything else?
Well, I know they've been thanked before, but I also want to reiterate everything the DPW did to help the district out. They were awesome. And I understand they're paid for it, but that was sure hard work in a storm.
You don't wanna be down on that hole digging.
No.
At that temperature. I was there. No thanks.
At night.
Thank you very much.
And he was digging that far from the gas line.
Gentlemen, citizens' participation? This isn't a public hearing? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is discussion and possible vote on decreasing the Community Preservation Act tax from 3% to 1%. And this is back on the agenda, because Mr. Belvin was, not Mr. Belvin,
Mr. Bentley.
Bentley was not available. He was out of town. Jack, did you start this off last time?
I did.
Why don't you pick it up and bring Mr. Bentley up to date on what is going on? And
Yeah, I proposed this as putting it on the ballot, potentially as decreasing the CPA from 3% to 1%. And I've got some handouts too. I know Bob has. I know that you were going to update us on some of the law changes, and that's why we put it off until this meeting here for you to come in and update us on that, and also on the available funds. I have some information on that as well, so I'll just turn it over to Bob.
Okay, well, I guess I wasn't prepared to bring you up to date on specific law changes, but I know all about them. So, back in the summer, this past year, the legislation changed on the Community Preservation Act to actually include additional revenues to be put into the trust fund, so that the revenues would be more of a guarantee. A larger percentage would be able to be given back to all the cities and towns. And a huge change was made to allow for recreation projects instead of up until last summer, the Community Preservation Act said that the recreation projects you could not rehabilitate any recreational property unless it was initially bought by under the Community Preservation Act funds. And the legislation changed it so that it can be
used now to rehabilitate any recreation project in town. And so that it really, really opens up significantly the recreational fields that can be addressed, can be looked at, can be upgraded. And I know that the Recreation Committee has looked at a whole bunch of them and has a bunch. I know that the school committee's been looking at a number of different projects and things that we turned away in prior years because it was not bought using CPA funds are now allowed. So that was probably the biggest change in the law. The other was the guaranteeing of a bigger percentage of money to come back to the cities and towns. As everyone knows, when we initiated the Community Preservation Act in Carver in 2007, there was a statewide match of 100%, and it was 100% for the first year in 2007, and then it started going down because of the revenues into the Registry of Deeds started going down. But consistently, because under the Community Preservation Act funding rules, anybody that's at 3% gets 3 different rounds of funding, whereas anybody that's at 1% gets only 1 round of funding. So just as an example, last year the statewide average was 26.8% to all the cities and towns, but because Carver got all 3 rounds of funding, we got 49%. So instead of getting 27 cents on every dollar, we got 49 cents on every dollar back. So it's pretty significant in that regard. And I've put together, and it's also available on the town website, the CPA match by the state to Carver year by year. And you know, it's pretty significant. If you take that and reduce the surcharge from 3% to 1%, I have another handout that basically shows how much money is lost in terms of monies coming back to the town of Carver. So at 3%, if the local CPA surcharge revenues for fiscal year 2012 were $341,000, at 1% it's $113,000. The state match in round 1 at 3% is $92,000. At 1% it's $30,000. In round 2 it's $48,000 more, and for 3%. In round 3 it's $28,000 more, and at 1% it's 0 for the round 2 and 0 for round 3. So at 3%, the total revenue plus the state, which includes the state match plus the local surcharge, it's approximately $510,000 that we get. And at 1%, it's down to $144,000. So it's a significant decrease in the amount of money that's available to the town for various projects. And I think, as everyone knows, we've done a lot of great projects. We've acquired the coal property. We've spent a significant amount of money on upgrading the Marcus Atwood House. You know, we've spent a lot of money on acquisition of other open space. We haven't done as much on recreation as I think everyone wants. But now that the rules have changed significantly, that is a big help. I took a look at my own tax bill, and in my own tax bill basically said I was paying $91.12 a year annually in terms of the Community Preservation Act surcharge, which on a quarterly tax bill basis, it's less than $25 per quarter. So I don't see that as being a huge burden. And the other part of it is that there's the first $100,000 of the Community Preservation Act surcharge. The first $100,000 of your valuation is reduced, is just taken off directly from your the surcharge. So, you know, if you have a home that's valued at $271,000 and you're going to take off $100,000 immediately, so it brings it down to $171,000 that is then worked off the tax rate to then work out your rate. It's $100 a year is essentially what's being spent on the CPA at 3%. So it's pretty pretty impressive in terms of that. I mean, or pretty small amount as far as I can see. I don't know that you want me to go through all the projects that we've done.
I was kind of hoping you'd have more in the way of the law changes, because one of the law changes that I had heard was that if you reduced it to the 1% or you reduced it to anything, you could fund it out of general fund revenues to bring it back up to the 3%. And I don't know what the mechanics of that were. I think Dick had said at the last meeting that you would attend in some sort of seminar down in Mattapoisett that would go over all these law changes. And I just left it that chance that maybe you would have information on that. Had you heard anything along those lines?
I definitely have not heard anything along those
Okay.
lines. I did go to the meeting in Mattapoisett where Stuart Saginaw, the Executive Director of the Community Preservation Coalition, was doing his presentation, and I did not hear anything
Yeah,
along those lines.
I'd attended a treasurer collectors meeting. It was in a slide that the DOR went over, and I'll look at that for the next meeting and see if I can get some information on it. I did a handout as well, too, because my concern is that we have enough money in there to pay the debt that's still due on coal property. So, I hand these out if you want to hand those out. The first sheet I have here shows the money that was collected by the town in 2012, and that would trigger the reimbursement that we'd get in October. That's true?
Right.
So we collected $331,714. You flip up to the next page, we received a reimbursement of $168,698. I did a calculation based on what we received and what we collected. I actually came up with a higher percentage than you. I came up with 51% versus your 49. So some of our figures must be probably the bottom line there, the amount that was collected. I'm giving you more credit. As far as the debt, at the end of June, we owed $500,000, and we had already appropriated $100,000 for the fiscal 13 budget. So for all intents and purposes, there'll be $400,000 that still will be due for the debt, the principal, and then you have some interest of about $20,000. So, I think you can average it out to say it's maybe $115,000, because the interest will go down each year. So if you look at the last sheet, and this was from the town accountant's report, in your unrestricted fund balance as of the end of June 30th, before we add in the $168,000, there's $547,000 in there. So I think we can do something. I feel more comfortable if this was to be put on the ballot and reduced down. I feel comfortable that based on maybe all the articles that you approved at your last meeting, we might have to scale back on them. If it passes, it goes on the ballot. It doesn't mean that because we put it on the ballot, it's going to be voted in. It could be supported again like it was before when you first voted it in. The other thing is that I believe it was voted in 2006 and became effective in 2007. Am I correct there?
It was voted in 2006, and the very first thing that we did was use the money to acquire the coal property. I believe it was in December 2006.
We borrowed $1 million.
We actually didn't borrow initially.
Yeah.
The town voted to fund from CPA monies, and then a year later, we actually voted to go to bond.
Yes. And back at that point in time, the economy was in much better condition than it is now. So I just felt that the citizens, 5-6 years has elapsed since then. Let them have an opportunity of, vote to either keep it at 3% or reduce it to 1%. But it will be a ballot question. Just because we put it on the ballot doesn't mean we're reducing it. It's up to the voters to decide what they want to do.
Questions, comments from other members of the board?
Well,
Can I just jump in? So, my understanding, I wasn't sure of the exact process myself in terms of reducing the surcharge from 3% to 1%. So I've had a number of conversations over the past 2 days with the Secretary of State Elections Division and the Department of Revenue Division of Local Services. And they've both told me that the process is that it has to first be approved by the legislative body of the town, which is town meeting in our case, and then it would be put on the ballot. And that it has to be in that order.
It has to be in that order, because I know when you have a debt exclusion, you can vote that in first, and then have it go to town meeting.
I asked Don Gordon today from the Department of Revenue, Division of Local Services, and he told me that it had to be in that order.
Okay.
So I did it just because I wasn't totally sure of the process
Oh, I'm glad you
myself,
did.
so.
I'm glad you did. I just want to give the taxpayers an opportunity to weigh in every now and again on things.
Through you, Mr. Chair, when I read accepting the CPA or, changing it in any way, it states here, I'm trying to find it as we're talking, that you have to do it in the same process that you initially voted it. And I believe it would be just a vote for us to put it back on the ballot. I need to kind of reread this, but it's right here, so I'll just take a quick peek and see if I
I
can
think
find it
the first time
quickly.
you did it by initiative petition, it went on the ballot.
Right.
And then it went to town meeting afterwards?
No. No.
And again, this is just my recollection,
Yeah.
and maybe Sarah can, I think it failed at town meeting twice, and then it was put on the ballot by initiative petition because it failed at the town meeting twice. I think that's what happened.
And then
Back in
it didn't go back to town meeting, it just
No,
was approved?
I don't believe so, no.
So
Once it's
what,
a- yeah,
why do we have,
I don't know.
If I may, I believe that what Bob is saying is that the Secretary of State's office has said that it has to be first at a town meeting and then on a ballot to reduce it. Is that correct?
Right, and that's actually what the Community Preservation Act says
Okay.
in Section 16A, as well as, I think it then jumps you back to Section 3.
Okay.
Says it has to be basically the same process, and it has to go to the
Right.
legislative body first, and then go
Right.
to
So-
vote.
So my understanding is to adopt it and to get rid of it, you use the same process, but the reducing the percent is a different process. It's the one you've
Slightly
explained.
different process, yes.
it's a different process to reduce it?
Slightly different process, yes. Under Chapter 44A, which is the Community Preservation Act.
Not that I doubt any one of these people, wouldn't it be a good idea for us to get town council to weigh in on this? Because this involves all the voters of this
Right.
town.
I would agree, and I can request an opinion. I mean, probably have it, I'm sure, for your next meeting, if that would make sense. And I think to everybody's comfort level, including Mr. Bentley's comfort level. I'm not sure anybody
Yeah.
can speak with tremendous confidence right now as to what that is. So.
Ellen has one opinion that,
Well, I just, through you, Mr. Chair, just to read, it may help, it may not, but Chapter 44B, Section 16, A states, just take me a second, at any time after imposition of the surcharge, which is this 3%, the legislative body may approve and the voters may accept an amendment to the amount and computation of the surcharge or the amount of exemption or exemptions in the same manner and within the limitations set forth in this chapter. B, at any time after the expiration of 5 years after the date on which sections 3 to 7 inclusive have been accepted in a city or town, said sections may be revoked in the same manner as they were accepted by such city or town. But the surcharge imposed under Section 3 shall remain in effect in any city or town with respect to unpaid taxes on past transactions and with respect to taxes due on future transactions, until all contractual obligations incurred by the city or town prior to such termination shall have been fully discharged.
And that's what I was getting at as far as
So I think,
the outstanding debt that we have.
right.
Well, and I
And
think
what that says is that the CPA will stay in place in order to pay that outstanding debt.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
I don't think that's the question
No,
at
No.
hand.
yeah, we wouldn't go ahead and do that, but I mean, it can show that we have it in the balance right now.
I think, obviously what Mr. Bentley has said regarding the legislative body having to act before the electorate is obviously the key question here. I would find it hard to believe that we'd have to go through the initiative petition process to get it back on the ballot to do it exactly the way we did before. That,
No.
that doesn't seem to make, conceptually that I don't think that makes sense. I would think we'd probably all feel better. And I'm sure the town clerk would probably feel pretty comfortable getting something from town council or the elections division, but I think we would work through town council, obviously, to make sure we get that right. The last thing we need is the town clerk disputing the legality of a question on a ballot.
And
Through you, Mr.
I've been
Chair.
told that there's no requirement to go back to the initiative petition
Good,
for,
okay.
for a reduction from 3% to 1%.
Good.
Yeah.
I've definitely been told that. The legal lease that's in the Community Preservation Act leaves a lot to be desired, and I'm not gonna try to pretend I'm a
No.
lawyer,
Yeah.
so I think
Right.
getting town council opinion is a great idea.
Yes.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I just want to share with the residents why I am strongly in favor of reducing the CPA. To me, the CPA was a luxury for us during times when things were good. And I think that the CPA committee has accomplished a lot over the past few years with when we had the money. I do have the list of what you gave to us, and just to give you an idea, we spent $325,000 on Savory Meadows in the hope of creating a ball field. We got the Cole property to preserve open space. We've spent $101,000 on tennis courts and basketball courts. The Marcus Atwood House, as you know, was restored. So I think we've captured all aspects of everyone in town. You know, historic, we did the affordable housing for a little bit, Cole property for the open space. But I'm gonna say it the way it is, we have a lot of debt coming, and one of them is the school. And so this was my idea when I first ran a few years ago, is to start thinking of ways where we can kind of offset the expenses that are going to be coming. And it's not that we can't, if this goes through, if the board votes or what have you, I'm doing hypotheticals right now, we can always come back and bring the CPA back to 3% at some point. But we need to plan on the school and the police station and the fire station. We can't afford the CPA tax. I know it sounds minuscule, people say it's only $80, it's only this, it's only that. But the Town Building Study Committee is just in the process of trying to find solutions for the school and all the other infrastructure. This is just probably gonna be a small component of how we offset the increase of taxes that we are going to face as a community. And I'm gonna give you an example. I did some research on the CPA in other towns, and I am one that does not like to look at other towns. I look at what we can afford. But I think this is gonna show you that something is seriously wrong in Carver. I think everyone knows the median income in this town right now is not that high. I did an analysis of all the different towns in the area, and I'm gonna pick at Duxbury right now, because I think without even reading any and not being too detailed, everyone knows Duxbury is a very affluent community. In November, they just voted in to reduce the CPA tax from 3% to 1%. You have Milton, another affluent committee, not close to us, but they voted to not even approve a CPA tax in November. Plymouth is at 1.5%, Plimpton is at 1.5%, Middleborough is at 1%, Lakeville is at 0, Rochester is at 0, West Bridgewater is at 1, Hanson is at 1.5%, Carver is at 3. So I don't think it's too much that Jack brought this idea to the forefront in terms of, these are towns, I don't know what their economics in terms of what they have for bills coming up, but we're trying to find solution to getting the school built, and this is just one way to help offset the cost. So I just want to know up front. I want you, the residents, to know up front, not that I don't support CPA in other times, but I think we've got a lot going for us that the CPA has already done. And I think we can just kind of sit back now for a few years, you know, if we vote to go forward with the reduction, and then come back and bring it back to a 3% sometime in the future when we're stronger again. I am.
Sarah?
Yes, thank you. I want to point out that as concerns the Cole property, That purchase, of course, was for conservation and open space protection, but it was also the perfect marriage between land preservation and development, economic development in this town. There was no other place that we could have put a town municipal well in North Carver to help develop businesses in that
Sarah, I think
district.
I just complimented the sale of the coal property.
Correct. I'm just pointing out to the public that it was not merely for open space protection. The whole North Carver Water District wouldn't have even happened if we hadn't bought the coal property with CPA funds. I just, wanted to remind the community about that. I also wanted to, if I could, just go over a little bit some of the issues that Bob Bentley talked on. The calculation of your CPA surcharge is, if your home, we'll make it a little more simple for me, is worth, say, $300,000 or $200,000, whatever. You subtract the first, that's your assessed value. You subtract the first $100,000 from the assessed value, and then figure out what your tax bill would be on that pretend new value. And that tax bill is the one that gets taxed at 3%. I know a lot of people know this. I've been told by some people they didn't understand that, so I wanted to make that really clear. And the average CPA bill is about $80 a year, which comes to 22 cents a day. In the mobile home parks, that is about 8 cents a day. And people can scoff at this in this room if they want to, but that's what it is. And I'm not suggesting that everyone can afford 22 cents a day, okay? That's why we put a low-income exemption into the CPA that we adopted, so that if anyone feels they can't afford it, and low income is actually, according to the state's definition, because of where we live, we're in the Boston standard statistical metropolitan area, that low income is actually relatively high. So there's a lot of us who could probably qualify for that. And I urge people to take advantage of that if they feel that they need to. I foresee, if we do lower it to 1%, I foresee that we won't be able to upgrade the Forest Street fields, the Kings fields, the playground right here in the center of town, all those things that we've been struggling with, trying to find new athletic fields. There just isn't a lot of land available. And as Bob said, we weren't able to do anything to them with CPA funding until now. So I think it would be a big mistake, and if this does move forward, I really urge people to take a long look at it. Look at the Community Preservation Committee's website, get a look at all the projects that have been done for you, for all of us. And then I also want to say that I think it's a political smokescreen to pretend that this is going to help us with the school. It's apples and oranges. You can reduce this if you want to, and that's, that would be the voters' choice. But I think it's a mistake, and I think it's pretty disingenuous.
Jack?
All of us received that $100,000 exemption,
Correct.
but the mobile home parks only receive it once. So it might only be 8 cents a day for the people that live in mobile home parks, but I think it's safe to say that a lot of the seniors have been hurt by this economy. And every little bit that we can help people out with is a step in the right direction. There's no doubt about it. The CPA has been a wonderful mechanism for us to fund different projects. But I think that we really have to take a hard look at things in this difficult economy. And we need to reach out for every little bit that we can get. I know that you don't think it's gonna build us a school, and it's not going to, but it's gonna create a little bit extra capacity, maybe a little extra incentive for more people to step out and support that project, because we really need a school more than we need ball fields, I think.
Well, I think you're going to find that it's going to divide the population, and maybe that's the intent. I think the same people who voted for CPA would support the schools as well. And so, it's kind of a pretend question, I think.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I just want to mention that I think it's very sad that when there is a difference of opinion, that we are being called disingenuous. I think we need to have more camaraderie on this board, that we are working together, and I shared the positive of the CPA. And what is disingenuous is to break down what is a lot of money to people to 22 cents per day. I just went shopping this weekend, and I wanted to buy a pair of shoes for $100. And it was because the salesperson came up to me as soon as I walked in and said, I just want you to know that if you buy these shoes on a pre-order, you're going to get 25% off. That's all. That would only amount to, boy, by the end of the year, if you wear the shoes every single day for the year, you're going to get them for free. Well, that's basically the same thing when you're talking about people's money, that it's only 22 cents per day. We are seriously trying to balance the budget for not only this town, but for the residents. And the accumulation of these little bit of savings of the $80 or what have you, and then if the building study committee comes up with another savings, you're gonna build up to savings so the residents can afford the offset of an increased cost. So I am vocally saying that I think it's very unfair that this board has had negative comments every time there's somewhat of a disagreement, and I really think we need to get our act together and start working together.
All right, Dick hasn't spoken yet, Jack.
Okay.
I don't want to go into a lot because everybody else has covered a lot of the area. I support the CPA at the 3% because I don't really want to lose this funding from the state and lose some of the opportunities. But I think it's important, which would settle all our differences, that we do give the people a chance to vote. Tell us, do you want it or do you want to reduce it? So that's where I stand.
Jack, it was your initiative, so last comment, wrap it up.
You know, putting it on the ballot is just that. We're just putting it on the ballot. It's up to the voters to decide where they want to go with this. They might very well come back and leave it at the 3%. Just like in a few months, we're probably going to have to put a debt exclusion on for the schools. Doesn't mean that we're in favor of it or not in favor. We're just giving the taxpayers the right to vote on it. Just like Dick said, you know, they have a right to be able to weigh in on it. That's my whole initiative here.
Thank you.
My only concern, the policy issue is yours, the procedural issue is important to me, so if it's the board's wish, I will seek a legal opinion from Copman and Page, and I will also ask them to perhaps run that by the state's elections division too, so that there's no disagreement between them, so that our next agenda, everyone will be clear on the process. That's something that, again, the policy issue is one thing, but I want to make sure we get the procedures right.
And run it by the DOR too.
Mr. Chairman, you want a motion on that?
You want to make a motion?
I
to
can
table
make a
it
motion.
till
No,
next
yeah,
meeting?
I'll make a motion that we table it until Mr. LaFawn can get a report back from our town council on the legalities.
We'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. I think we should be prepared by the next.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I mean, we have to move, if this is going to go forward, we have to move to get it to Jeannie and so they can
Right.
compile all this stuff and get it ready for
Right.
the election anyway, so.
Yeah, I know, right, there's a deadline, right, so we should be able to.
I think she said it's 35 days before the election, so.
We have a motion and we have a second. Are there any further comments? Hearing none. All those in favor of tabling this until our next meeting, say
Aye.
Aye.
Bob, thanks for coming in and sharing that information with us, okay?
Thank you, Bob.
Thank
It was
you.
very informative. Okay, next up is discussion on Mass General Law, Section 32B, Sections 21 through 23, municipal health insurance.
Mr. Chairman, I had put this on the agenda last week with one intention, and that has changed, so just to give you a quick update. You'll know that these are the sections which communities can adopt that allows them to put in place so-called GIC look-alike programs for municipal unions and employees without having to collectively bargain. Now, there is a legal procedure to go through, but it does not include collective bargaining. At the time, I was, we'll put it this way, there was a little bit of, it seemed like it was a little slow getting representatives for the Insurance Advisory Committee from some of the bargaining groups throughout the town. And as of the end of the week, I now have a representative from each bargaining group. So I think it's best for me to have a meeting with the IAC before asking you to formally adopt this, just so they can understand exactly what it is. On the other component here too is that those GIC lookalike programs have now been developed and tested, and that can all be presented to the IAC at that time. So you can look forward to me asking you to perhaps accept these sections of the general laws at either your next meeting or the one after that.
Okay, this is a requirement, though,
Well, if it's a requirement, if you're going to
collectively bargain this.
if you're going to try to exempt it from collective bargaining, you need to adopt this section, correct?
Is there a reason to hold off on this until?
The only reason to hold off would be a courtesy at this point, just a courtesy to our employee groups. That's the only reason.
Okay. I'll accept the motion to table this
Thank you.
until the next meeting.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. It's unanimous. Okay, next up is discussion on whether or not to put a non-binding question on the ballot regarding elementary school, police station, and fire station. And I'm not sure why
I
this
brought
is-
that up.
I'm not sure why
Yeah.
this is on here, because isn't the non-binding a moot point?
Yeah.
And the building committee hasn't even met yet, so. I mean,
Well, my concern is that we voted, the last time we voted on the Police and Fire Station Building Committee was in 2007, and it seems like it's been pushed to the back burner. We have these 3 projects that we have to do. So, yeah, I don't want to upset the apple cart with the SBA, but I just figured we'd throw it out here for discussion purposes only. You know, do we need to put a non-binding on the ballot for the schools and for the Police and Fire Station Building Committees? You know, where are we moving forward with these projects here? I know we just reinstituted the Town Study Building Committee again, but like I said, just throw it out here and have a discussion on it. Maybe you don't want to have anything to go forward on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
The non-binding wouldn't, question, there's no funding
No.
directly for the police and fire station that we have to put up a non-binding question until we see the funding that we're gonna have to come up with.
Exactly.
But the school, that question comes into play when you're asking the School Building Assistance Authority if you can move forward on the project.
I just want to get a sense of the support from the taxpayers on these projects, because they're just, nothing's happened. Look, what's happened to the police and fire stations just sat there for 7 years. I saw them try to operate during this horrific storm out of those fire stations, the fire station and the police station with, you know, just working as a generator. You know,
But didn't
not
we
only
take-
that is, we know that they're gonna be doing Route 58 over, okay? And from Center Street down, the church or Carver
Rochester
Square
Meadow.
is gonna be like our, town center, and we still have this dilapidated fire station. You know, shouldn't we be trying to move forward and be proactive and trying to, you know, this is gonna be the focal point of our community.
But didn't we take the first step towards that, with
Building
establishing this building?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the building study committee
The key
that we
is to-
appointed somebody to tonight.
The key is to get money into that fund.
Yeah.
That's what we've got to do.
That's what the key is,
Right.
yeah. But how long is it gonna take to fund the
We
thing? How
put the
long is it
mechanism,
gonna
we
be?
put the mechanism in place, now we
Yeah.
just need to identify where the funds are coming from. But I think
Yeah.
to leap into this without giving the town building study committee an opportunity
I think we're
At least
setting up
To
to
do
fail.
their
to
work.
set the position and do their work. I mean, they've done a lot of work, so it'll
Right.
just
They have done a lot.
be, it'll just be a matter of tweaking it here and there, I'm sure, before.
And
they-
all I was trying to do was put something on the ballot to gauge the support from the townspeople.
If we should be doing anything, it would be, my opinion, through you, Mr. Chair, is to talk about the statement of interest. Jack, I think to put a non-binding on the ballot is setting us up to fail again. I mean, we're not, the whole point of our discussion at the last meeting was to get some facts regarding some solutions financially, so
My whole thought in doing this was just to gauge the support from the community. What would they support and not support? But maybe it's premature to do that.
I believe it is, Jack. I think, like Helen said, I mean, we've already got the message 3 times from people on the school. Now, certainly not the police and fire. I hear a lot of positive comments about the police and fire from people all over town, but I think to set it up with a non-binding, which is not required for the school, is just,
And, no, I didn't.
well, we finished the
yeah.
job of trying to put together a financial plan, and if people would vote that down, I mean, you're talking 4 times now.
Yeah.
So, I'm not in favor of,
No,
You
I just
wanna-
put it out here for discussion. I didn't want to vote
You
on
want
it.
a motion
wanted
to
to-
table it until
Yeah.
some further time? Okay, I make that motion.
I'll second it.
all right, we have a motion and a second. Then, any further comment? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, vote to overexpend FY13 snow and ice appropriation. It is a shocker, right?
Yeah, as you know, this is a relatively mechanical function at this point. Usually, you doing this about this time of year. It's interesting up until right after the blizzard, before some of the real aftermath. But just the major storm itself, Mr. Hellion reported that his contractor budget was only over by about $5,000. So that's what happens when you have a real mild winter going. So obviously the costs are going to escalate after this last
to, so-
winter. So yeah.
You know what a lot of people don't understand, Rick, is it's not just the snowstorms.
Yes.
We have any moisture, and that freezes up. We have to get them out sanding. So it's not just snow, it's also the black ice that's out there.
And when you have a big storm with big piles of snow, even if you don't have it, you have the melt freeze, and it's just a lot of money and chemicals and a lot of time involved. So, we were doing pretty well until then. In fact, one of the issues that comes up too is, as you know, we have to plan on some over expenditure amount in next year's municipal budget. So that has caused me a little consternation. So. But as a mechanical function, this is a requirement that the Selectmen and the Finance Committee take this vote. So,
Are we gonna be able to recoup some of this through the emergency disaster assistance?
well, that's what we're hoping can happen, and as Mr. Walsh reported earlier, that whether or not we're able to get a federal declaration of emergency for this area, a disaster, will impact whether or not we do get some funding for that. Of course, when we see that funding is a different question, so.
I'll make a motion, we approve the over expenditure of the snow and ice account.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comments?
I think the finance committee closely monitors this as well, too, so it's not like he's just running out and spending the money. He has to go in front of them.
Right, and they'll get
So-
a run out of all.
So there's some
expenses.
controls in it.
Right.
Any other comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Request by the Friends of Council on Aging for a one-day special liquor license for a St. Patrick's Day dinner on March 14th. Discussion and possible vote.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This is typically an annual event, and a very good one, by the way. So if you have an opportunity to get out and join the folks, you'll enjoy the food, and the company is great, too. Any comments, questions, anybody? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Unanimous. Okay, request by St. John the Baptist Club for a one-day special liquor license for a fundraiser on March 9th. Discussion and possible vote.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a second. Any comments, questions, recommendations? Okay. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. All right, approval of minutes, January 8th, January 22nd, and February 12th.
I didn't get any January 8th.
No, and I was just going to point that out to you. Those, although have been drafted, there was a lot of requests, changes submitted. They will be on your next agenda. So we had to pull them at fairly late, so my apologies. Yes, so the 22nd and the 12th are there for you.
Had you already done the January 8th ones, and now you're saying there's gonna be changes to it?
Lane drafted the minutes, I reviewed them, and then, as you know, we then seek input from selectmen as to any changes they request.
Can you highlight the changes that are made to your minutes that you produced
It's a good idea.
After I review them, or
after you've reviewed them?
after my,
Yeah.
Would you
I'm just
have
talking
time
about
just to do that?
after the selectman's office is done, for the changes that are in there, what,
you're right, you don't want
Yeah.
me to highlight any
No,
changes
not
I
your
make for-
changes.
No,
No.
so anything post my review, you'd like to
Yes.
see it indicated in some fashion,
exactly.
that would be, we
Put
could do
it
that.
shaded on the form.
We could do
Yeah.
that,
It's a
right,
great idea.
no problem.
Italicized.
That'll take care of it.
I think that's
Do
fine.
we have any questions on the minutes for the 22nd, the 12th?
Through you, Mr.
do.
Chair, I have changes to make on the January 22nd that I'm in the middle of doing, but I haven't finished, so I'm asking if we can table those.
But we were just handed some new ones. Were there changes on that?
Yes.
Which ones were those?
Yeah,
The new ones that were handed out to us, there was changes on,
Second?
Tonight that she
Oh, okay.
gave us to replace the others.
because I had already read the original ones they gave us, and then you gave us 2 sets of minutes.
So Helen has changes to the 22nd.
So we're gonna
Can
hold
We
that.
make the changes tonight?
Can we get one done?
Can we get one done, the 12th?
One done on a night?
Yep.
That would be nice.
I'm okay
Well,
with it.
12th?
Well, I haven't had a chance to read the new ones, so. Are the new ones changes to the original one that you gave us for
What
the
date are we
12th?
speaking
The
about?
12th.
February 12th.
Diane, what say you?
Can you encapsulate the changes, Diane? Do you remember what they were?
Oh, she won't remember.
Oh, if you and Rick made the
You know,
changes,
the
I
only
don't
one
have a
who's
problem.
busy
but
at this meeting.
Other members of the Board of Selectmen are making them.
Listen,
Like-
on behalf of Mr. Franny, we're gonna table all 3 of these, okay?
That's fine with me.
We'll pick them up at the next meeting.
That's fine with me.
Is that agreeable?
Are there a lot of
I
changes,
don't wanna sit
Helen?
here and bore the audience.
As long as it's understood that this office is producing minutes for your review. That's all that
I just want to see the original minutes and then the changes
This is what
afterwards.
happens when you get an old board of selectmen. Right, Dick? Older board of selectmen, I should say. I include myself in that, by the way, too. so take that
At least we're not
No, no.
reading the minutes to you yet. It'll be next.
Soon enough. Soon enough. All right, so do we have a motion to table these to the next meeting?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous, Diane. Okay. Citizens' participation. Here we go. All right. Mr. Fortier, you're up first because you had your hand up earlier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's actually two subjects I want to speak about tonight.
Okay.
One is on the reduction of the CPA,
Okay.
and also on the report from the North Carver Water District.
Okay.
Is it okay with you if I speak to both of them at one sitting, or do you want me
Yes,
to?
no, that's
Okay.
good.
So I guess on the CPA, I'll start with that. I wanted to get a clarification. That's 3% on a property tax bill, is that correct?
On the property tax bill, yes.
Okay. Aren't the mobile homes and the mobile home parks taxed as an excise tax? So wouldn't
Correct.
they be automatically exempt? from
Not
The
exempt.
land is taxed though, and that's where you get that,
And
7 cents or whatever.
that land is owned by a corporation, correct? A company?
Correct.
Collective,
Okay.
so to speak.
And they're a for-profit company?
I believe they are
Not the South Meadow Village.
at the park,
Or not Southwood Village?
nonprofit?
That's a nonprofit.
Nonprofit,
Okay,
And so's Cranberry and Pine Tree.
Yeah, now, because they're a co-op,
the co-op.
yeah.
okay,
And the same with the one on Wareham Street, Pine Tree Village.
okay. So with the exception of Pine Tree Village, though, the parks that were mentioned are also over 55 parks and are included in the exemption. They can file for an abatement.
The abatement doesn't have anything to do with age, it has to do with income.
Income.
So but as it turns out, if you are over a certain age, and chances are you might be on a fixed income, you probably would qualify.
But the people live in mobile home parks, they don't get that exemption. Only people that own homes. So they can come in with their income thing and get it abated, but the people that live in the mobile home parks can't.
And it's actually the corporation that owns the land that is coming in, correct? It's not the
Well,
actual
it's
residents.
reflected in their rent.
Okay,
They pay it as part of their rent.
okay, that's fine.
But- But again, Mr. Fortier, the parks, it is 8 cents a day for each person who's there.
Okay, that's fine. I just needed to clarify that,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. Helen, I wanted to speak a little bit to you. you mentioned a lot of towns and the percentages
I
of those
did.
towns, and you singled out Duxbury. Can you tell me if Duxbury has the 100,000 reduction in the property value?
I don't know that.
They should, because it's part of the law.
I thought it was standard, yeah.
It's part of the law. So
Um,
wherever
can-
you go.
Can you tell me what the tax levy is in Duxbury compared to?
It's approximately 11 something per thousand, but I don't know for exact.
Well, I was talking about the tax
Yeah,
levy.
no,
so
I don't.
I guess my
I don't
question.
know a lot about Duxbury. I was looking at the CPA only.
It's a pretty high, it's a pretty high
Right,
average tax bill.
You noted that it was a very affluent town.
It
So it's
is.
very possible that their 1% exceeds our 3%.
Okay.
Is that true? Is that a fair?
I wouldn't say that unless I had all the facts on the table, John.
Okay. But you singled them out as an example
I did.
of why Carver should be able to reduce theirs if Duxbury could
no.
have reduced theirs.
No, what I was saying is there's something that's going on in the economics of all the different towns. If the other towns, especially the more affluent ones, are voting to reduce the CPA tax. That was the point of me pointing out other towns.
Okay, it's also very possible that towns like Duxbury, or some of the more affluent towns that you've mentioned, don't have a need to purchase open space. They are an affluent town. They've purchased lots of open space. They don't need to renovate. Duxbury's building a huge high school. They're not using CPA money for the high school.
Could be, John.
I
That's
just,
absolute.
I want
We're
to
talking,
compare
excuse me a
apples to
minute,
apples. I
excuse me a
don't
minute,
want-
Mr. Fortier.
No, but that's absolutely
Ellen,
possibly true.
Ellen.
I was giving facts
Ellen.
about CPA.
Excuse
Sorry.
me for a minute. Listen, you're talking hypotheticals here. Do you have something to add to this? Come on.
No, I just want to clarify if she's going to, give some figures and use examples that she's actually giving valid.
If you want to challenge her
examples.
figures and her statements, why don't you go collect the data and come back, and then we'll discuss it, and you can prove your point through that. But right now, we're going back and forth on hypotheticals, because nobody knows what they're talking about. Nobody has that.
But I trust that you people sit up here and know what you're talking about.
John, she said to you she looked at the CPA numbers, not the rest of the stuff, okay?
Okay.
So come on, all right?
Okay.
Let's be nice, okay?
Sure.
Now, do you have something to add to this, please?
All right, I'd like to speak to the report
Okay.
that the water commissioners
Please go ahead.
did. The first thing I wanted to ask was a clarification from Mr. Johnson. He said that there was a valve that was closed that they couldn't locate, but he didn't indicate that how that valve became closed. I'd like to ask.
Paul, want to step up to the mic, please?
I don't have the information how the valve became closed. I know that there was a valve that they could not locate, whether a plow had gone over and covered it up. I don't know, John.
Okay. I'm just curious how a valve got closed and then couldn't be located to open.
I can't answer the question as how it became closed. I just know that it was closed and they
Excuse me a
couldn't.
minute,
Okay,
Mr.
that's
Johnson.
fine.
John, is there a point to this? We're
Yeah,
talking
there
about
is.
We're talking about a major snowstorm that threw the entire state into chaos.
We're talking about a water system
Absolutely.
that should be.
And we just
at a
addressed this, but I
state.
mean, you're bringing it up like you're trying to point blame at somebody here.
Well, I want accurate information.
What do you think was inaccurate? That he said there was a valve?
I think it is inaccurate that potentially the people who are running our water system don't know our water system well enough to locate a valve to open.
John, I'd like to address that because I'd like to take that.
And
I'd like
while
to
I'm
take that
talking
right
about
on
that-
because you just made a statement. If Joe Silva doesn't know the water system and he ran it for a number of years from Middleborough, then I don't know who else knows the system any better than Joe. And Bruce Trumbull, who is the operator for small water systems, is very qualified to do his job. I'd trust him with my life.
Okay.
I stood right there in the
Mr.
trench next to him
Chairman,
while
I
he was
think I
doing
can
the
help.
recovery. They know what they're doing.
Okay,
That-
that's fair.
You can't find something that's buried in snow at 4 o'clock in the morning. They were doing it very late at night.
Mr. LaFawn wants to add something.
Yeah, and this may be completely not my place, Mr. Chairman. Correct me if you think it's not, but, with all due respect, John, I have great respect for you, but this is not a time to quiz selectmen, and whether it's Helen or Dick or anybody else, and that's not what our policy is for. And I can just see this going down a road where everybody in the room can come up and quiz individual members of the board on, I mean, they may be individual, very important issues, and if they are, that's fine. Contact the office. we can get questions and concerns to Mr. Johnson or anybody else on the board, but I can just see this going down a road that could be hard to recover from.
I don't think this does anything positive for town government doing this here. I think what you ought to do is talk to Mr. Johnson afterwards, okay? We've already hashed this over. I worked with Mr. Johnson during the storm to round up these people and get this stuff done. There was a lot of things going on, a lot of moving parts, John. So to come up here and try and hop on minutia and try and
It's not
embarrass...
minutia, it's
try and
whether or not
embarrass-
the
and
water
try and embarrass
department is
people
ready.
publicly, that's not gonna happen. Your time is over. Thank you. Next, Mr. Forrester. Just for the benefit of the audience, we're not gonna tolerate that. If you have something to come up and contribute to the town, that is fine. If you're coming up here for personal attacks, that's not gonna be tolerated. Yes, Mr. Forrester.
Yes, good evening. Rod Forrester, 13 Lincoln Circle, Cranberry Village. I would like to say first, I want to compliment Mr. Johnson and North Carver Water Commission for their efforts in getting our water turned back on in Cranberry Village. It happened twice through nobody's fault. It was a comedy of things with, not really a comedy, but Mother Nature with the storm, and I believe they and everyone else in the town did their very best. And secondly, I want to pass along a compliment to the Carver EMS specifically. We had an incident yesterday in the village where we have an elderly neighbor who lives alone, and he is, over the past year or so, has befriended my wife and myself, and when he ever has any kind of issue, he seems to call us. And last evening, he called us. My wife spoke to him, and he was complaining that he felt he had swallowed wrong, and he was having pains in his chest. And he wanted Rod to come up and talk to him so he would calm down and his pain would go away. So we told him that Jane told him that Rod would come up, but first thing we were going to do was call 911. And so I called 911, and I went up there. And as usual, in no time flat, EMS was at the door, and they got him in the ambulance, and they had determined, we found out later, that he had in fact had a heart attack. And they didn't take him to Jordan, and they didn't take him to Toby, because for the best for the patient, they took him all the way to South Shore Hospital that has a very updated cardiac care unit. And we found out this morning that it literally saved his life. He would have died. They had to use the paddle 5 times. They had to use a stent, put a stent in him, and that man is up walking today and alive because of Carver EMS. And God bless him. We have I told her, town is incredible. We have the best EMS hands down anyway.
Well, hopefully Tom Walsh and his paramedics and EMTs are watching, and if they're not,
I hope so.
we'll convey that to them.
Well, I told them before they left, they're fantastic. And also kudos to the police department for all they did in our village to help. And some of the residents that I was rather fortunate. I had a generator installed when my mother-in-law was alive because she was on oxygen. It was for her. So we still have that, and we use it when we're out of and we're able to have furnace, so we were warm. But the only inconvenience we had was no water. So we were some fortunate than others, but the fire department and certainly the police department was down there taking many of our residents to the shelter down at the high school, and we are extremely thankful for that, everyone's work. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those kind words. Okay. Citizens' participation, all the way in the back, man. Bob, you get enough mic time. You can wait.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Kathy Doherty, and I live at 15 Harvest View Way. And I apologize if this is a little redundant, but I'd like to state my point. I'd like to share a letter with the public that I've written to the Board of Selectmen. I am writing to you at the request of Helen Maroney for feedback in regards to our Community Preservation Act funds. I passionately believe that we should keep our CPA funding at 3%. As you are well aware, the CPA has funded many beneficial projects in our town that we would otherwise not have been able to complete if this fund had not been established. Most important, I feel very, very strongly that we need to keep our town attractive, to include our town-owned buildings and grounds, to keep Carver appealing to potential new residents, and to protect our property values. Projects such as the North Carver Green, Carver High School tennis courts, and the Union Church are example of projects that would not have been possible without these funds. The Cole property is one of the greatest benefits of this program. How else could our town have secured the Cole property without the CPA? The Cole property has provided a much-needed municipal water source for our town, along with preserving a large parcel of land in North Carver. The town has a loan on the Cole property. How will the town pay for this obligation without CPA funding with a town budget that's already strapped? Some may argue that it's a financial matter. It is important that town residents know there is relief from the CPA tax if they fall under certain income criteria. I'll state that I had written age, but I realize that's not true. Furthermore, we should not consider cutting any programs such as the CPA, but we should look at every program that the state of Massachusetts has to offer that results in reimbursement to help our town move forward using matching state funds. We need to move forward on the elementary school project now, while hopefully we are eligible for state reimbursement and interest rates are low. Why put more money into our current elementary school building that is failing and outdated? I think the current Board of Selectmen need to realize that the only way we will get this new school is to pay for it. Personally, I am tired of seeing projects in surrounding towns moving forward and being paid for with my state tax dollars. I want programs that use matching funds from the state of Massachusetts used in my town. I want my house to be valued the same or higher if it's in Carver than in a surrounding community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Doherty. And I did get your email, and I haven't had a chance.
That's fine. No,
haven't
and
had
I
a
know
chance
it
to
was
sit down and respond to you.
It was short notice, but I thought I wanted to share it with the public.
Well,
I
thank you.
didn't get it. Kathy,
Thank you,
where did you
Kathy.
send mine to?
That's my fault. I
Yesterday.
gave you the wrong address.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay.
But like I said, I wanted to
Yeah.
share it with the
Thank
public,
you.
and I know it's a little bit redundant from everything that's been said, but
We appreciate
No.
your
my
insight.
opinion. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, we're still in citizens' participation. Who else? All right, Robert.
No, I have the other one too.
Okay.
I thought you had changed from the 2012.
I'll keep it to one. Where is the discussion with our town council? Are we still looking at opening it up and looking for other town councils to take over?
At this point, it's a moot subject.
Okay,
It was voted not to pursue it.
okay, will that ever be brought back up?
Anytime you have an election, change of Board of Selectmen, that's certainly a liability.
Okay, and to go along with that is, could we have a different town council for town meeting?
And the reason is?
The reason is that I think that Mr. Corbo, Attorney Corbo, has come up with some decisions that I think are not in the best interest of the town. And I think that I'd rather have that ability for him to come in and talk about it.
The question is he following the letter of the law?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Bob, you know, whether it's something you agree with or you don't agree with, I mean, I have my own personal opinions about things, but if he's following the letter of the law, that's what we're paying him to do.
Right, well, I think there's one specific instance that,
Why don't you send something to us? Give me the
I
facts,
have.
dates. You have to refresh my mind. I mean, we've got
It's
10
the
minutes.
Betty Wimpers's case with the zoning board that he gave out,
All right.
and
Why don't we save this for a...
it's not about my case.
Okay, no, why don't we save this for a private
Yeah,
discussion? so we
and
can
this
go back.
does have, Mr. Belbin, for you to suggest that this doesn't impact your own issues with the town is a little bit unfair, to say the least.
Well, Mr.
I-
LaFawn,
All right,
I
we're not
disagree
gonna
with
get
that,
into
but
throwing stones.
You may disagree with that, but
What I-
that doesn't
What I
bother
would
me.
ask you to do, Bob, is put something together, a little narrative or something, give me the facts and the data on it. I will sit down with Mr. LaFawn, and we will discuss that, and if we have to talk to Mr. Corbo, I'll be happy to talk to Mr. Corbo and pick his brain as to where he was coming from when he gave whatever information he did, okay?
would you consider changing town council for town meeting?
This isn't even on the agenda.
It's not even.
Yeah, first of all, this is not the agenda. and
Need to,
Second of all, you're asking us to pay for another town council on top of the one we're already paying. I think if we find something that he's doing is not correct or appropriate, then we can take steps to correct that through his firm. But we can't just change that without a vote of the Board of Selectmen, and it was voted once at the beginning of this administration, and it failed. So, we're not gonna be getting a new town council right now, maybe in May or something, but not now.
Okay, thank you.
So, please put it down in writing, it doesn't have to be a novel, and I'll be happy to take a look at it. Ms. Padavani. Like the lady at the Oscars there, huh? Tripping on something? What's up?
Dawn Padavani, 82 Rochester Road. Through you, Mr. Chair, I was wondering if I could ask Mr. Bentley a question. I emailed the website committee twice to change the CPA match on the town website because it says we get 84%. And I tried to contact Mr. Bentley through the town website, but it said coming soon, so evidently there's no
Bob, you
way
wanna,
to contact him.
do you wanna respond to that, Bob? Take the mic, please.
So I was wondering if you would change it back to 49% because it's very misleading to the public.
If I may, Mr. Chair, just interject, I think that's not really what it says. It says 84% of the state average, which is a completely different statement. Is that
I don't
correct,
believe
Bob?
it says state average.
Well, I did up the, I personally did up this sheet that gives you the return on investment, which is on the website. And I don't see anything that says 84%.
No, not on that, on the website itself.
I guess
If you go on the town website, if you look at it, it says that we get an 84% match. And
That's not what it
We're
says.
not getting that.
And-
I
That's not
agree
what
with
it
that.
says.
And I'll take a look at the website
okay, that's all I'm
tomorrow.
asking.
And
Yeah.
if wherever I can find it, if it's wrong, I'll make sure that it gets changed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Anything else? That's, please. Mrs. Martin.
Lisa Martin, 13 Shaw Street. As a taxpayer and a voter, I want to thank you for discussing the CPA, whether we agree or we disagree. I would like it to see and be presented to the residents of Carver to make that choice. You know, my family, we're trying to make ends meet. We're raising 2 young children. We moved here 11 years ago. We invest in Carver. We're investing in our children's future. I love this town. I love open space. I served on the Halifax Conservation Commission years ago. But I really want it to be left up to the voters to make that choice. We're in the bracket where we can't afford to have it reduced. We make just above too much, but not enough, you know, to pay the food bill, the gas bill, all that stuff. So please work together on this. I appreciate it. It's very, very important. I would like to see a school built. I have a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old. And the teachers at the school, they're great teachers. I've even volunteered at the school a couple of years ago. And I know what those teachers go through. If we can work it out and do what we can, I truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think you saw tonight that although we have differences of opinions, and that's what this country is all about, it's how it was built, I think you saw a consensus tonight, an agreement that give it back to the taxpayers. If they want to support it, that's the way we'll go. If they don't want to support it or can't support it, then that's fine too, you know what I mean? But I think that was the consensus of the Board of Selectmen tonight, let the voters have their say on it, okay? I hope that's what it was anyways. Going once, Going twice, thrice. All right, citizens' participation is over for tonight. Mr. LaFawn?
Two things, Mr. Chairman. One, I would, in light of a lot of the discussion earlier about the storm, and especially with the North Carver Water District, I think, and Paul, I'm sure you think it'd be fair to mention the efforts of Jack Hunter through all this to help get through this difficult period of time. I saw him out there, and I said, you really should have said something about Jack, 'cause, you know, kind of one of those guys in the shadows on these issues, just trying to help make ends meet, so I want to point that out. Briefly, you will have on paper, a budget recommendation for me by the end of the week. It has changed a little bit because of our snow situation. And we will be lining up our hearings for March 9th. I still need a final confirmation from the chairman of the Finance Committee, but that was one of the dates that we had originally picked as a possibility. So I just want to put everybody on notice that that's probably going to be the all-day budget hearing day on March 9th. So that's all.
Thank you. Selectmen? Jack, you want to start it off?
Yeah, I'm actually going to be brief tonight. Vehicle excise bills are due March 4th. And I talked to Liz Sorrell, and she's almost done with the statement of interest, and Rick and I might stop down there tomorrow and just review it with her, so I can get a head start on everyone else reading it. That's it.
Thank you. Sarah?
I'm not going to hold you up. I have nothing tonight, thank you.
I just want to thank all the residents who have spoken up about their thoughts on the CPA, and have a good week.
I pass.
I just want to say, God bless all of you. God bless our town of Carver. Thank God we survived the chaos of that storm, the difficult time. And please keep our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines in your thoughts and prayers as we move forward. And Mr. LaFond is...
Could I propose the motion for executive session, which I will not keep you here long, I promise?
Absolutely.
Can I just say something?
Oh.
Is this appropriate, executive session, collective bargaining? It doesn't say,
Right, this is why I'm going to read the motion that I'm proposing. And the proposed motion would be to go into executive session pursuant to MGL Chapter 38, Section 21, subsection 2, for discussions pertaining to the proposed supervisory bargaining unit and not to return to open session.
yeah, but is that appropriate to do it now and not listed on the agenda for the general public?
So don't feel comfortable.
It is appropriate, yes. Because the general public is not privy to the discussion once you go into executive session anyway. So there's no reason for notice to the general public. That's what the motion does. But
I'm gonna rely on your advice.
You can do whatever
Yeah.
you choose.
No, I think I'm
Trust me.
just gonna rely on your advice.
Motion sounds good to me.
I don't feel comfortable.
You don't feel comfortable
No.
with it? All right.
It's fine.
We'll reschedule it then.
You won't disappoint my wife.
Motion to table?
So moved.
Second?
Not with all the open
Second.
meeting laws.
Motion to table. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
Well,
Rick, I am just
I'm going to
paranoid
recuse
about-
myself from that whole,
Oh, good.
any motions on it at all.
401.